prosecution of human trafficking cases has increased greatly, particularly here in Houston, Texas, where we border with Mexico. This human trafficking can take several different forms. In the least insidious form, it's simply a matter of smuggling people from Mexico who are illegal aliens to the United States for a fee. Generally, there will be a coyote in Mexico who will transport them to the United States, and then a U.S. handler who will pick them up in the United States and transport them to where they need to go. This leads to the second area of smuggling cases. That is transportation services. There are services in Houston similar to Greyhound bus, for example, but they are underground transportation services that will transport an illegal alien that's been recently smuggled into Houston, Texas, to anywhere in the United States where they want to go, be it to hook up with family members or to get a job anywhere else in the United States. Finally, human trafficking can take a couple of very egregious forms. One of them is the sex trade. And very often people are smuggled into the United States, with Houston being one of the hotbeds, for purposes of engaging in the sex trade. And oftentimes the government contends that these people are being enslaved and held illegally, and that they have to work their way out of being enslaved by providing these sex services. The other form that is very egregious and has been happening more and more in Houston is when the traffickers hold somebody hostage and they threaten to kill them or to cut off fingers and call up family members, and unless a large ransom is paid, then they will cause harm to these people. Now, the penalties for this can obviously be very severe, particularly when we're talking about engaging in the sex trade or when we're talking about the hostage situation. Among the human trafficking cases I have handled is a transportation company where they were similar to a bus service, but they were transporting people all over the United States who had been recently smuggled into Houston. Of course, the defense in these types of cases is that they were unaware that these were illegal aliens, that they were simply providing a transportation service. On the other hand, the government will introduce evidence that many of these people don't speak English. Some of them are literally still muddy from crossing the river, and that the fees that the transportation service charges are exorbitant, particularly compared to somebody, for example, say Greyhound. Another type of case that I've handled is the sex trade, where traffickers were smuggling in young ladies from Thailand to engage in the sex trade in Houston. And it was the government's position that these young ladies were actually enslaved and forced into doing this. In truth and fact, prostitution is viewed differently in Thailand, and they were very interested in coming to the United States and very happy to be able to send money back overseas to their relatives. Some of these ladies were making as little as $500 a year in Thailand and were able to make $100,000 a year in the United States. If you know anyone who's under investigation or has been charged with a smuggling or human trafficking case, please contact me. I have had a great deal of experience in handling these types of cases in federal court in Houston.